Welcome to In Her Shoes. I'm Susie Daphnis. My guest today is Annalise Law, Managing Director of the Kanga Group, a promotional merchandise organisation that has supplied over 2 million promotional items to more than 14 countries in the last 3 years alone. The Kanga Group works with companies on targeted marketing solutions for branded merchandise. Despite being only 32 years old, Annalise already has numerous business awards to her name. Annalise, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about what Kanga Group does.
So we're a promotional products company, just as you said. We are trying to branch into more marketing services type things, such as sales promotions and perhaps along the line some integrated web marketing, that sort of thing, but primarily promotional products, branded merchandise, and we're supplying it globally.
So many of us have been to trade shows and we leave with a hat or a t-shirt or a coaster or something with a brand on it. Mm-hmm. What sort of promotional items have you found have worked best to actually integrate a company's branding strategy with a product?
Well, before I answer that, I think I better take a step back and say I like to take what I call a diagnostic approach. So when you go to a doctor, for example, a professional in their field, you would absolutely recoil in shock if they just started throwing pills at you. So what I like to do is I like to say, okay, let's just say, where are you trying to take this campaign? What are your objectives? What have you done that hasn't worked? What are the challenges that you've got to get over, the hurdles? And then let's try and find the product that absolutely meets that demand. Now, it could be as simple as a t-shirt or a cap. In most instances, where we find that we really excel is in the custom branded stuff. People call it trinkets. It's really more than trinkets because it's what remains to be seen as opposed to advertising in the local paper, which tomorrow is dead.
So give us an example.
So an example would be that at the moment we're working with a very large children's paracetamol brand, an analgesic, and we had to find something that they could give away at a baby expo. And we came up with the idea of a muslin wrap because there'd be a lot of mothers there that were breastfeeding. And it's not necessarily something that mothers find comfortable to do in public, but it's necessary. So we wanted to give them away a muslin wrap that they would feel comfortable using at the expo, which of course was then branded with all of the children's brand of the people we were working with. So that's just one example that overcame an objective that they wanted to fulfill. Yeah.
And it's something beyond the ordinary that people might be used to seeing.
We'd like to think so.
Your work is helping businesses better brand themselves.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the biggest mistakes you see businesses make when attempting to create a brand?
They don't actually they don't think about what the end goal is. So really, when you're putting a piece together, a marketing piece, you need to include every element of marketing. There is going to be some element of print that's needed, there's going to be some element of radio that might be needed, television that might be needed, but then they have to remember that there's going to be something that has to be left behind, because at the end of the day, once it's all finished, they want people to remember what it was about, and they forget the promotional product. So that's probably the biggest mistake people make, is they leave it to the last minute, and then they're paying exorbitant amounts of money they don't need to be paying, or they're not getting the concept that's absolutely perfect for them. So that would probably be the biggest mistake that we see that people are making with their branding.
Annalise, you've expanded overseas. We quite often see Australian companies borrowing ideas from American organisations or European companies, whereas you've decided to go the other way. You're taking your business to international markets. What had you decide that your product and service was one that was needed overseas?
Well, I'm very fortunate. I have an American passport and I have a European passport, so I've done a lot of travelling and I've seen what's out there. I believe that Australia has an awful amount to offer. I think we're working harder than a lot of other countries, which may not be a good thing, but we're still being perceived as being sort of laid back. People want to work with us. So with those two perceptions, I think that Australians have got a lot to give, particularly in those two markets, in the States and in Europe. My dream was always to go internationally. As far as I'm concerned, it's the same amount of work whether you do 1,000 pens for someone or 100,000 pens. And I always wanted to have something set up where I could actually be servicing the global companies and giving them really good service with excellent economies of scale from one location. chose to do it from Australia because we're closest to our factories here. We predominantly work with China and Asia, and we're on the same time zone, so that's very helpful for us. And I also wanted to open in the UK because I think that there's a lot of companies that are doing things very well over there, but I think that it can be done better. And I think that customer service is something that could be really improved over there. And my vision for the UK is to just be an absolute world-class customer service company. And at the same time, it gave our clients in Australia a 24/7 workaround. So the people over there, we go to sleep here, we can give a brief to our UK office, they can be working on it, and at 8 o'clock the next morning, our clients have got what they need. So it's working for us in every respect.
I think you bring up a good point. I don't think people realise that while you sleep advantage is a good reason to be located in multiple countries.
Yes, yeah. And it also, it means that you haven't got all your eggs in one basket. So we're very fortunate that in Australia things have been going very well, but because we've been going so well here, it's actually made sure that we could do very well overseas as well. So.
Now you're a young businesswoman, you've got two
Thank
young
you.
children, and yet you've overcome a huge personal health hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So in 2005, recently married, I found out that I had thyroid cancer, which at the time is devastating. I was in my obviously mid-late 20s. You've got a lot of dreams and hopes in front of you, and you think it's your last hurrah, and it's absolutely not. It's not a death sentence in any way whatsoever. Thyroid cancer in particular is one of the best cancers to get if you're going to get cancer. It's easily 100% curable. You can overcome it very easily. I just looked at it, and my husband and I looked at it as a bit of a blip on the roadmap to success, really. But if anything, it probably made us more determined to, as a couple, be really strong and to have a business that would allow us a quality of life, that would make sure that if anything happened again, we always could look back and say, no regrets, we did everything we wanted to do and we did it together. So that's probably the best thing that could come from having thyroid cancer for me.
So the question that I was going to ask next, you've almost answered, and that is, what decision did you make about your future at that point?
Yeah.
Is there anything more that you'd say?
Definitely. We wouldn't have been, at the time my husband was working very hard in the corporate world, and that only got more and more, the hours were becoming more and more, and it really crept into our lives a lot. And me having the cancer, we made a decision, a very conscious decision, that it would be in our plan to get him out of corporate and to eventually work together, which I'm very proud to say we are now doing. But I don't think if we'd gone through that, we wouldn't quite understand how important it is to have that time and to have that plan, in your future, or else you could go through life never seeing each other and always looking, wishing that you were doing stuff that you never actually take the plunge to do. Yeah.
You've been very successful, you've learnt some lessons. Tell me what advice you would give other young women looking to start their own business.
The timing is never going to be right. If it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen fast, like it did for me. I don't like to give advice, but I'll say from my own experience, to be very organised is a must. You can't have it any other way. Ask for help. Women are so bad at asking for help, and you have to ask for help, and you have to have good support in place. We would love to think we can have it all, and I would like to say I'm very close to having that, but at some point something's got to give, and particularly if you want to be a mother as well. You don't have children not to see them, and it's really important that if you're going to build a business that you have that support in place. A plan is also incredibly important, because without it you can drift a little bit, particularly in the early stages where, let's be honest, you don't pay yourself. You can go from week to week wondering if there's actually going to be money in the bank. I was very fortunate that I had my husband working in corporate at the time. But it's definitely something where a plan you can actually then look back on and stick to. And probably having a mentor, someone that knows what the plan is and can keep you on the track, is, for me, that was my father. So I was very, very fortunate he'd been through his own business. But those key points are probably what I'd take into. If I was to give advice, that would be my advice.
We're very big advocates of mentoring at the Australian Business Women's Network.
Yeah.
So the plan, what's the plan for the next little while?
Well, the plan started out to be where we are today in 5 years' time, and we're now way ahead, like we're 4 years ahead of where we wanted to be. So we'd actually like to just spend the next 12 months just taking stock a little bit. You mentioned a few awards that we'd won, and we'd been in BRW Fast Starters, the Fast 100 list, and I won the Telstra Businesswoman Award last year. We've just won an award in America, what I understand to be the only non-US company to ever win the fastest growing distributor award globally. So I don't know if the next 12 months will actually pan out the way we planned. But we are planning to open our US office in September of this year. So that's obviously a lot of energy will go into that. We have a lot of clients over there already. But our plan is, there's a 12-month, a 3-year and a 5-year plan.
Just the 12-month?
The 12-month is to open the US office, continue to grow our clients and just give amazing world-class customer service in Australia and the UK obviously, and to make sure that people understand what promotional products are all about, that they're the item that I like to say remains to be seen. Whereas a newspaper ad, a magazine, as important as they are, people don't ever call you and say, thank you for placing that ad. And the number of times a week that I get a phone call and say, thank you for that cap or that T-shirt or that branded promotional item is, that's worth it to me.
Great.
Yeah.
Congratulations again on
Thank
all
you.
your success, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much,
Thanks.
Susie.